Well, in terms of responding to what we were perceiving outside, if that's what we met, in fact, we even met something worse than what we were perceiving outside. But because we came in with determination, we have been able to take on the challenge we met, and we are going on gradually. And we believe that by the time President Bill concludes his 5 years, we would have been able to achieve the promises we made to the people of this country, given the challenges the people we are faced with.
In terms of, there are areas where in terms of building on where the previous government left off, they made some progress in, improving on certain areas. But I must say that to a large extent, we saw lots of failures on governance, lots of failures on strengthening and upholding democratic principles and practices, lots of failure in terms of strengthening the freedom and the rights and liberties of citizens of this country, lots of failure in terms of fighting and curbing corruption with seriousness and unbiasedly, lots of failures in terms of transparency and accountability as they promised, lots of failures in terms of protecting and empowering our women of this country, lots of failures in terms of even their own manifesto promises.
So I went through key areas in Sierra Leone and I gave them scores. You're asking me for short. So I looked at all the scores and I basically took an average. And I am really, really sorry that this might upset, but their final score for me is an F. There are areas where they scored E's and D's, but overall, I am sorry to say I gave them an F.
As previous speakers have noted, there are more failures than successes. But I would like to put it from two angles. Comparatively, from the previous government, when you compare certain things that they have done, you can see some successes. But when you look at comparison with respect to the resources available to this government, you will see more failures than any success.
Today marks the 4th anniversary of the SLPP-led administration in governance. President Julius Maada Bio was sworn in as Sierra Leone's new president on Wednesday, 4th April 2018, just hours after the Elections Commission announced his victory in a tight runoff poll in which he won 51.81% of votes cast. This is the dawn of a new era. The people of this great nation have voted to take a new direction, he said in a speech following the short ceremony in which he made an appeal for national unity. We have only one country, Sierra Leone, and we are all one people, he added. The government promised to restore fiscal discipline and macroeconomic stability while fighting corruption and other societal ills, slowing down the country's development. Tonight, we will evaluate the delivery of the government on their promises as we mark their 4th year in office. Have we moved in a new direction? And as we head towards our 60th independence anniversary, where do we stand currently in terms of development? My name is Samuel Wise-Bangura, and this is a YV on Sunday.
Yes, subscribe. You always dey watch we program them, but you not subscribe yet to the channel. All wetin you get for do, press this red subscribe button, and then you come over here and press this bell. To the bell option, press this one with all. E don done. E no get for cost you anything. When you do this, na sign for show say you dey support we for make we do more. Thank you for we don help we for share this program. Yeah! God bless you.
Right, good evening and a very warm welcome to AYV on Sunday on Channel 33 on TV and on Radio FM 101.7. Now on my panel this evening, I have with me the 2018 presidential candidate and chairperson for the National Unity Party, Femi Claudius Cole. Good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me.
I have the National Organizing Secretary for the National Grand Coalition, Jesmed Suma. Good evening and welcome, Jesmed.
Good evening. Good evening, fellow Scalonians.
I have the the acting National Publicity Secretary of the Opposition All People's Congress Party, Sidi Tunis. Good evening, Sidi, and welcome to the show.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. Happy Easter.
Right, and I have the National Publicity Secretary for the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party, Lahai Lawrence Lima. Good evening.
Good evening, Samuels. Thank you for having me here.
Right, and to you watching and listening, remember you can participate in the discussion through our Facebook page. You can find us at the Africa Young Voices Media Empire Facebook page and drop your comments. And you can phone in when we open the call line later. And the number to do so will be +232 77 622 766 +232 77 622 766. I'm first off going to ask Lima this question. 3 years on, how has the journey been for you guys in the SLPP? When you were campaigning, you promised things. When you eventually got in after the elections, what you were perceiving from outside, was that what you met from in the inside?
Well, in terms of responding to what we were perceiving outside, if that's what we met, in fact, we even met something worse than what we were perceiving outside. But because we came in with determination, we have been able to take on the challenge we met, and we are going on gradually. And we believe that by the time President Bill concludes his 5 years, we would have been able to achieve the promises we made to the people of this country, given the challenges the people we are faced with.
Right. So if you are to describe the 3 years you've spent in office, what would be your words?
That President Bill is a focused leader who understands clearly the issues of this country and has the patience, the focus, and has the right team to be able to deliver on the challenges of this country. And he's making progress in that direction. Right.
Sidi, 3 years on, what would be your words? I mean, just few words in describing where we are with the new direction.
Well, I mean, in terms of, there are areas where in terms of building on where the previous government left off, they made some progress in, improving on certain areas. But I must say that to a large extent, we saw lots of failures on governance, lots of failures on strengthening and upholding democratic principles and practices, lots of failure in terms of strengthening the freedom and the rights and liberties of citizens of this country, lots of failure in terms of fighting and curbing corruption with seriousness and unbiasedly, lots of failures in terms of transparency and accountability as they promised, lots of failures in terms of protecting and empowering our women of this country, lots of failures in terms of even their own manifesto promises. And as we go along with the program, I will highlight some of those manifesto promises that they failed to deliver.
Right. Femi, you contested the elections, the presidential election with the current president, and promises were made, campaign messages were told to us, the Sierra Leoneans, and now the president has spent 3 years in office already. Exactly today, he was sworn in at Radisson Blu. What would you say 3 years on from that race you were in? The results were called and a winner was announced. And the things that winner promised, where are we if you have to put your description on the table?
Well, I am going to put it in the form of a report card.
Right.
let us say we gave them a job. They were interviewed, that was the campaign. They succeeded, that was the declaration of them as the winner. So I went through key areas in Sierra Leone and I gave them scores. You're asking me for short. So I looked at all the scores and I basically took an average. And I am really, really sorry that this might upset, but their final score for me is an F. There are areas where they scored E's and D's, but overall, I am sorry to say I gave them an F. Their flagship program is one that I would have thought they would have excelled with. And there they got an E. In terms of the most important, the most critically important aspect for me is peace and cohesion. They got an F. After a polarized election, one of the main goals has to be bringing people together. They failed to do that and are continuing to fail to do that. And I think without that peace and cohesion among the people of Sierra Leone, we have big problems.
Right. We'll come to the specifics. Jasmine, what would be your scores if you're to rate the SLPP in 3 years?
Well, as previous speakers have noted, there are more failures than successes. But I would like to put it from two angles. Comparatively from the previous government, when you compare certain things that they have done, you can see some successes. But when you look at comparison with respect to the resources available to this government, you will see more failures than any success. So when we come to the details of some of those areas, we look at the economic concept aspect of it. We all know that our people are suffering. There was a time the people were campaigning, and they themselves were campaigning, APC no go Shidonya angry Boku.
Right.
Now today, the people are saying the ground dry. And if you look at the specifics in terms of the economics of food prices and a whole lot of different areas, the value of the loans, in terms of unemployment, in the areas of the basic fundamental human rights of our people, if you look at the democratic principles, you look at the peace as the previous speaker just mentioned, there are a lot of failures, but when we come to the details of some of those failures, we will highlight and identify them.
Right.
The two areas I would like to note on is the area of the free education and the fight against corruption. As it is now, is
Mental disasters that we have encountered as a nation previously. Now coming to the specifics, the SLPP launched their New Direction Manifesto in 2018.
Right.
Wherein several promises were made, and it was based on those promises that the people of this country elected President Dr. Julius Maada Bio. Now let us go into the manifesto. Let us begin with their political ideology. In their manifesto, they told us that their political ideology is based on social democracy and its fundamental commitment to peace, freedom, security, justice, equity, unity, and solidarity. Now let us take those key words: peace, freedom, unity, security, justice, equality. I mean, we are seeing a direct opposite as far as it relates to those words. Freedom. We have never in our country's history the space for democratic freedom has been reduced than we are seeing now. You know, the civil society space for open and frank discussion is closed. Space for frank dialogue, engagement with opposition political parties are non-existent. You know, frank discussions, even with the media, is censored, and so now my submission here is supported with the attempt to introduce a bill that you know, will even make it more difficult for us to, you know, express ourselves or maintain our privacy. And also we look at democracy, how it has been so much trampled, the constitutional abuses, the selective justice that we are seeing. Justice method are targeting certain people, and, justice denied to certain other people because of where they belong, which political party they belong to. And nobody would tell me that we are united as a country. We have become even more divided than we have ever been before. I mean, we can all agree that elections are bound to bring political, tensions and divide and all of this. But the danger is our division, our disunity has gone beyond just political divide or political disunity. Unfortunately, because of the way this administration started, a dangerous trend of disunity is now emerging in our country. Tribal divide, tribal disunity. And the seed for me, for tribal divide and disunity was sown when the GTT report was done. There was no need for classifying people by their tribal, affiliations. I think that was wrong, and now we are seeing it's growing, and it is dangerous. Now, if we continue further, let us go to their flagship program.
Let's take it step by step. The political ideology. Femi also mentioned in a society that is already polarized along political lines. You said the SLPP government has widened and deepened that division within or in the country. How so?
In governing, he promised inclusive governance.
Right.
And very early on, a group of opposition parties went to him. They were invited to State House and they had a dialogue. And the advice there was, even if it's once every 3 months, where you engage, this is like crossing the aisle across to the political parties with different, even if it was once every 2 months or 3 months, where you engage people from different political parties to throw ideas together, to maybe hear things that you're so encapsulated in the presidency that you don't get to hear and you don't get to see. And those promises were made that this would be the start of an engagement whereby you can engage with the president and discuss with him on areas where you feel you need his audience. What do we see? Now, we have engaged on a couple of different issues. Most recently, under the decentralization policy that they want to roll out, we sent letters. We sent a letter to the president specifically requesting an audience. And the members of his establishment tell us repeatedly, we have a listening president, or we have a listening president.
Right.
And there's much to be said about listening. But if there is no action, there is no follow-up, there is no follow-through, then it's just words on a duck's back. We have tried to engage him, and we spoke with his advisor, who guaranteed me that we would have an audience with him because the issue was critical. That specific issue referred to the closing of the political space, removing political parties from local government. It spoke to going against the constitution of Sierra Leone. And I believe our letters were maybe 3 months ago, and we're still waiting for that audience. And what I said to the president is, the people of Senegal are no more important than us. The people in Lebanon are no more important than us. And in grading certain things, I actually gave the president an A+ for international travel. But I gave him an F for the dividends of international travel, where there are issues at home that require your intervention, that require your presence. Our president cannot be that far removed from the opposition. It cannot be that far removed from engagement. Now, it's fine to promise inclusive governance, but it appears very difficult to actually live up to those promises. So I have an issue with that. And had he engaged the way he had promised, we would see less polarization. Because there is no harm in seeing the president with the opposition having dinner together, talking and engaging. Then the people then look at themselves and say, well, what's it the boss will come paid for? Look at the people then they eat together. Look at the people drinking together. But they don't see that. They see a president referring to the opposition as terrorists. So internationally, locally, what message are we sending?
Right. Let me just quickly do a follow-up question to both of you, Sidi and Femi. But Sidi, you can have the first bite. The fact that you said the current regime has created a platform to further widening the divide, the political divide, killing democratic practices, which are definitely not good for governance. Let's go back to some of the statements the president mentioned. When he took over 3 years ago on this day, he mentioned that he is the president for all. And he spoke about how inclusive his regime is going to be and how democratic the SLPP is going to run Sierra Leone for the 5 years period which the people of Sierra Leone have given to them. He spoke in his statement at the inauguration at the National Stadium, state opening of Parliament, that he believes that the issue of justice, peace, they form the bedrock of every governance system. He feels that that is why he has followed through on the implementation of one of the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, setting up or establishing the Peace Commission. So those are all things that guarantee a civilized society that can thrive on peace, security, justice, equity, and democracy.
Yeah, of course. I mean, those, you know, and that is why when we listened initially, you know, Sierra Leoneans, I must say, must have been very hopeful listening to the initial statements of the president. But the actions never followed, I mean, those statements. In fact, you know, what happened, follow-up statements were even more divisive. For example, referring to, you know, opposition as IAMPs without any evidence or without even investigation before even the establishment of the commissions of inquiry. You know, and also referring to opposition as terrorists, refusing to meet with the opposition to dialogue on national issues concerning not only the opposition but citizens generally. Every time the president is in public, he speaks of unity. Just recently at Susan's Bay, we heard him, you know, talking about him being president for every Sierra Leonean. Right. But clearly it has not been that way. I mean, you look at even the manner in which certain, you know, issues relating to justice or even the fight against corruption is being carried out. I mean, it is completely different, you know, when it relates to certain people, you know, as against others. And, you know, those statements and how even we react to the statements that we public people make is now even on the line of politics and divide. Right. And all of these are dangerous. And you know why some of us are disappointed? With all of the political tensions developing through statements and actions of senior members of this administration, and sometimes including even the president and the first lady, we are yet to really hear strong statements from the president addressing some of these issues of national concern with the aim of uniting us as a nation. Right. And that is what is bothering a lot of us. I mean, if you are a leader and things are happening under your watch and you're silent, what you're simply telling your supporters, it is okay, you can continue to do it. Right. And this is what is concerning to some of us when we see our president who has promised us that he's father for all of us, refuse to tap us on our back when we feel we are being wronged. And then we see him giving donuts or chocolate to those who are doing us wrong.
Okay. Femi, CD has submitted that the words of the president, the pronouncements of the president are far different from actions. And so, in essence, that is deceptive. But if you were to go by that, the president, you spoke about how the president is not engaging with political players and things like that. Civil society organizations have said that for the very first time in Sierra Leone, the space was created, a platform was established where the civil society organizations, would come and interface with the president, bring those ideas that would go to the TV and radio to advocate, blast if you want to say, and put them, and they can find a way, civil society and government, to address those issues. That is engagement. Those are the people representing the ordinary Sierra Leoneans. They've always been there, and they've applauded that initiative, that this is what democracy is all about. Is that not what you should give a tap to the regime in 3 years for?
Let me understand your statement. You are saying that the president promised to engage with the CSOs.
Well, they've established a platform according to the CSOs.
The platform has been established. Yes. Now, Samuel, I was actually a supporter and a party to Bintu Mani 3.
Right.
I believed in the concept. I believed, and I listened keenly. I attended all the days of that conference. And I listened to the advice that was given by the people from Rwanda, the people who came from Kenya, and their advice was clear. The president says he went according to the recommendations and has established the Peace Commission.
Right.
And may I know who is the chair of the Peace Commission? Who are the commissioners on the Peace Commission, Samuel? It is again taking an ugly woman and putting a lot of makeup on her face. And you say, you don't find. No, she's ugly. So saying that you believe the Peace Commission is to be formed, and the advice we received from Rwanda and from Kenya was the Peace Commission should be an independent commission.
Right.
And you take the entire formulation of the Peace Commission and give it to who? The chief minister. In so doing, you've already politicized it. Can there be no senior civil servant, a judge, or something that can handle the formation of the commission, whereby the commission has powers, independent powers, to be able to look at power in the face, look at the president and say, Mr. President, this appointment, and this appointment is unfair. We have to begin to include all ethnic members of Sierra Leone, where your cabinet does not come out 78% from your region, whereby people are represented throughout, even the promises he made to us women on that day. We are simply the decorations on the cake. The cake has been baked. Invariably, the cake is baked in private. It is decorated in private, and then they simply put the few women on top of the cake to say, women are represented.
Going by that, I think according to the SLPP's manifesto, the issue of gender, I think the SLPP promised about 18% of its cabinet to women, and according to the Minister of Gender and Children's Affairs, Mantita Owali, I mean, the SLPP has given about 18.5%, which is above what they promised. Is that not what you should be celebrating? Choose not to answer. Let me ask just a question. Still, just quickly on the ideology of the SLPP, the platform. What they feel, what they think can transform Sierra Leone with their thoughts, with why apparently the core principles for even the formation of the SLPP and them coming to power. The issue of justice, equity, democracy, security, peace, freedoms, all of these. And you've listened from the submissions from both Femi and Sidi. And now if you were to come in, me premising a question on this. The SLPP, President Julius Maada Bio, promised setting up a peace commission. And Femi mentioned the deliberations of the Bintu Mani 3 conference. And one key recommendation that came out of that conference was to do tribal audits in every institution, and no institution must have more than 30% of one tribe. And so if the government is willing to do that, then the issue of further polarization of the country along political lines, is that not being used, by you, the politicians, to perhaps say, well, the SLPP is a common target, let's get them out?
Well, the fact of the matter is, I don't know if you know the ideology of this government.
It's in the manifesto.
But I don't know the ideology of this government, except if you want me to measure it based on what they do now. If you want me to define their ideology based on what they do now, it will not be a pleasant one to say. But in terms of SLPP as a party, that is SLPP of Sir Milton Magai, is not the SLPP of today. That is one point we need to establish. When it comes to using slogans and words to define certain rosy things that they know the people aspire for, with respect to the area of peace, to respect to the area of democracy, with respect to the economic bread and butter issues, they are good at that. But when you measure their words to their action, they're completely different. So, and this issue about establishment of a peace commission, I am for peace. Our party is known for one advocating peace at every level. In fact, it is a principal pillar of our ideology, establishing peace, unity, freedom, and justice, which is also the three pillars of our national emblem. So NGC party is for peace. But I personally do not believe in this so-called peace commission.
Why is that?
Because the reality is we've had so many commissions in the past, and there are existing agencies and commissions, none of which deliver on what they promise to deliver. So instead of focusing on the issue of commission, let us focus on the action of the government in terms of what they do to promote peace or sow the seeds of disunity. In this case, this government has been doing everything to indicate that they are prepared to sow seeds of disunity. First of all, let's look at this issue about involvement of political parties in the democratic process that is happening. We look at what happened in the House of Parliament when a speaker was imposed on the House of Parliament, irrespective of the fact that the people voted for a balanced government wherein the opposition should control the legislature and the ruling party should control the executive branch. Through machinations of this government, they found a way to impose a speaker on the people of Sierra Leone.
They will tell you there's separation of power, 3 organs. The executive has nothing to do with that most powerful house. So the house, the house regulates itself. The house elects who it wants to be speaker. And that's, you have the SLPP, your party is represented, the NGC, the APCs there, C4Cs there, independent candidates are there, our traditional leaders, paramount chiefs are all there. So
when I said machination, I mean that they undermine the fundamental pillar of a democratic process. Yes, the evidence is clear. When members of parliament were expelled from the House of Parliament, the rule says there should be a rerun of an election. That was not done. Instead, you guys decided to make a decision and impose those people on us to take over the House of Parliament. The rule that says that whoever comes second should automatically be the person.
I'll come to you shortly.
But that's why I said machination. You see, the key thing is this. There is this fallacy that we have 3 branches of government.
Right.
In the practical sense of it, in fact, that is the foundation of our problem. The fact that the executive branch controls all the other branches of government. And how do they control it? There are 2 ways. They control it because they control the allocation of resources. They control how much benefit that goes not only to the judges and the judicial branch, they control how much resources that goes to the members of the House of Parliament, even though the Constitution says the House of Parliament, the legislative branch, is the one that is supposed to allocate resources.
Exactly.
But that is why they plotted a coup to impose a speaker on the House of Parliament, because they want to control how those resources are allocated.
Right.
You cannot run a nation and expect to develop that nation when over 50% of the government expenditure goes over taking care of people in government, on wages and salaries of government officers. How much more will there be remain for the poor people?
Well, I'm tempted to ask this question. Blaming the SLPP for these things you're saying they are happening. Should we go back to Parliament, for example, where we have honorable members from NGC, from APC, from SLPP, from C4C, independent people, who are given the power by the people of this country to perform oversight function. So if the executive is not doing this, if a particular ministry agency is not doing this, those people have the right to question them, to even stop them from doing what they are doing. So should we go back to, instead of blaming the SLPP, blame the NGC because you are represented in Parliament, blame the APC because the APC is represented in Parliament, blame the C4C. So it's, I mean, all these political parties represented there, you are all the problem, should I say?
Yes, subscribe. You always dey watch we program them, but you not subscribe yet to the channel. All wetin you get for do, press this red subscribe button, and then you come over here and press this bell. To the bell option, press this one with all. E don done. E no get for cost you anything. When you do this, na sign for show say you dey support we for make we do more. Thank you for we don help we for share this program. Yeah, God bless you.
Go ahead.
The problem started because, as I said, the speaker controls what happens in Parliament. He dictates the agenda. Our party has presented bills that addresses key issues that this nation faces right now. But the speaker, because he was imposed on the people of Sierra Leone, dictate what goes on the floor.
Right.
So because of that, they dictate what happens in that House of Parliament. So it's a matter of vote. Political parties that do not have the vote will not be able to influence the outcome of the bills or decisions. In fact, the initial process of determining what bill comes on the floor is dictated by the speaker. So you cannot blame the other political parties. The only area that I have some reservation about the other political parties in opposition is because they are not working hard to speak with one voice.
Right.
If they speak in one voice, irrespective of the fact that they have limited voice, the nation will hear them. It should not be independent. If they
have majority. The opposition parties, you have majority in Parliament.
No, it is not.
Put the APC, the NGC, the C4C together.
No, you still have, according to the machinated process, according to the machination process that happened. But again, there is one point I wanted to make.
Quickly.
In terms of the resources, the allocation of resources.
Right.
The reason why House of Parliament is dancing to the executive branch, when they should be the ones checking the excesses of the executive branch, there are two reasons. One, because of the speaker controls what happens.
Right.
And secondly, the allocation of resources. When the legislature is supposed to question the excesses of the executive branch, they found a way to give them fringe benefits that we know our economy cannot sustain in terms of what goes to members of Parliament. Even their wardrobe allowance, housing allowance, all different allowances that goes to those members of Parliament makes it difficult for them to raise their voices and question the abuse that is happening in the executive branch.
So who should be blamed?
His leader.
The speaker.
His leader in Parliament.
All right. Okay. Let me bring in Lima in. You've listened to the submissions from the three other political parties players. And they've said it clearly. I mean, the SLPP, you're saying, oh, Sierra Leone should be united, but what you do is totally different. You're sowing seeds of disunity. All you do is you come out and say, this is good, but when you go in, you do something different, and that is not what Sierra Leone is looking forward to.
I consider all that has been discussed here, with no disrespect to to their views as distractions, irrelevance, and out of place. I'm here to present the good work this government has done under the leadership of His Excellency, the President. Let's go to the fundamentals. Looking at the economy when we took off first. Coming back to the economy when we took off, at a point in time, when we took off, the revenue was very low. In other words, revenue mobilization was low, the expenditure was high, budget deficit was also very high. IMF program dissipated. That was the stage at which we came into governance under the leadership of His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio. Now, no government thrives without starting on a very sound economic footing. Now, because we actually took over governance zero, the President came in with 2 executive orders. The other one was looking at revenue measures, and other 2 was also looking at expenditure measures. So in other words, how best we can improve on our revenue, and also how we can rationalize expenditure in order to attract our donor partners to see how best we can work for the citizenry and this country. And that is what we did. With those 2 executive orders, we were able to put the economy on a proper footing. We established the Treasury single account in which monies of this nation that were collected by different individuals, which gave the room for corruption or misappropriation, were now centralized in the consolidated revenue fund. And that helped us for us to be able to really mobilize revenue and also increase collections. And I would also want to bring it to you that in the first 2 years of this administration, revenue collection actually went up to 67% in our first 2 years, as opposed to the first 2 years of the previous administration, which was 42%, which in actual fact shows that the previous administration itself was not even serious with revenue collections. Now, with the mobilization of that resources, this government has been able to roll out the free education program, which is our flagship project. Now, before coming to the flagship project, with this mobilization, we have been able to see how best we even claim payrolls. And we had a situation where we have one individual who will be working in 3 areas, receiving salaries. Sometimes they are not even present. So we've been able to clean up that payroll and make sure that we save government funding and recruit staff. In other words, increase employment in the sector of the health and also teachers. And this has been able to help governments to properly expend money to the attraction of donor partners. You would recall that the first 3 months of this government in power, we sponsored the free quality education. We were able to roll it out, and we took care of it before we even got donor partners to come in. Now, let me also bring a very important thing here to the attention of the public. Now, we have largely managed the economy of this country by going in for grants as opposed to loan. Now, we need to understand what is the marked difference between going in for grant as opposed to loan. Now, when you go in for loan, you're bound to pay. And there are types of loan. You have that one which is known as concessional loan, which they will give you and you pay over time with perhaps a very little interest. And you have the other type of loan that goes with a very high interest. But we have gone largely for grants. Now, before donor partners actually disburse grants to you, there are certain economic policies, or there are certain policies in your country that you need to promote. Policies that promote good governance and policies also that promote good and sound economy. These are the parameters for which the donor partners will look at to be able to help you in terms of disbursing grants to you. So by the very fact that we are getting IMF disbursing grants, right, to Sierra Leone, also the EU and other donor partners disbursing grants, and in fact we've received the very high amount of grants from those donor bodies. Say 2019, we received up to $200 to $300 million grants from the IMF. and the EU also is supporting. That tells you that our governance policy is on a very good footing for us to be able to attract these donor partners to be able to discuss.
Let me ask you this question on the promise on the economy. I'm going to quote directly the new direction. The new direction, macroeconomic transformation will focus on the following priorities. 1, revenue mobilization. 2, public expenditure management. 3, public debt management. And 4, exchange rate management. Now, you've been talking about revenue mobilization, for example. The issue of number 2, the issue of government expenditure management. Many people, economic pundits, the politicians, they've said you've been wasting taxpayers' money. The fact that, yes, you've been generating, NRA has been generating huge sums, I mean in trillions, revenue mobilization is on track, but you are wasting that again when it comes to government expenditure. So whether you overbloat the government, trying to create jobs in their wards for the bill boys, and just look for ways where you just, and you promise sealing those leakages, and you campaigned on the platform of efficient and effective management of the state and its resources. But expenditure, you've been giving it away like mercury.
I will come to that. Let me just arrive. Let me just land safely.
Go ahead.
These are areas now we highlight. But let me just bring forward the achievements this government has made before I come into the vague statements some people really make to distract the focus of this government. But we are a focused government, though. Now, with the consolidation of our revenue and also rationalizing our expenditure, we have been able to roll out the free quality education, which has been the huge social justice that ever in the history of this country. This is the first government that has given such social justice to the people of this country by allowing free quality education for all children, irrespective of whatever tribe, whatever political party you belong to. We are not looking at that. We care about Sierra Leonean children, and that has been the fundamental problem of this country, right? Mismanagement of our resources, and also not allowing our children to go to school for free. You understand? So this government, under the leadership of President Bio, believes that the only way we can change this country is by ensuring that we invest on the next generation, and that is what we have done. Now, in terms of rolling out the free quality education, we have not just put children to school, right? We've been able also to even provide the school feeding program for them. Quite apart from that, also this government is also paying fees, tuition fees for all female students that are pursuing sciences. That besides, this government, through its effective economic management, also has been able to support students who are not opportune to be able to pay for their university fees by organizing loan scheme for those students. And taking cue from, moving from that as well, you have to roll out certain programs, and those programs, you cannot achieve them if you don't put in money into those programs. Now, you have the various civil society organizations out there who are like a watchdog for government, and they go on the radio, go on the media, call government attention to certain programs government should be able to undertake to improve its governance mechanism, its governance systems. And there is no way government is going to roll out some of those concerns aired out by civil society organization if government does not put money into it. Now, because of the effective economic management of this government has been able to respond to some of the concerns raised by civil society organizations. Now, also coming to the aspect of good governance, right? Because really they started by distracting the public from things that are really not correct. I am really touched to be able to touch some of those misleading facts, those misleading stuff. Now, talking about, say, muscling the press. This since independence, this is the first government ever in the history of this country that has cleared off the criminal libel law, in which we now have free press in Sierra Leone. And this is also a hallmark, you understand, to mark the good governance program, in which citizens have the freedom to be able to critique their government with a free mind, without anybody going after you, save for the fact that whatever you say should be measured within the context of development, and also pointing certain issues to government. And quite apart from that, we've also seen the trend in development, I mean the development trend now, in which the social media space has now been used by miscreants, by mischievous people to cause chaos, anarchy in the country, or distract the public, or even create tension in the society. So as a responsible government also, we care about the peace of my auntie there, we care about the peace about Jasmine and his following. We care also about the peace of our good neighbor, the APC. So we will take measures as a responsible government by taking certain bills to Parliament, that bill that will help to promote peace and social cohesion in this nation, for which, of course, the Ministry of Information and Internal Affairs has taken the bill to Parliament, so that we'll be able to see how best we regulate those who recklessly use social media, so that we will be able to start to maintain the peace in this country, because wherever peace does not thrive, development program is skewed. Right. Now, with having said this is to tell you that President Bio and the SLPP government actually came into governance with a proper focus, in which we have been able also to increase enrollment of teachers in the Ministry of Education, and also even take care
I'll
of
come to the flagship to education.
Okay.
Just quickly on the economy. Sidi, I'm going to ask you this question. Under the revenue mobilization, one of the priority areas the new direction promised. The new direction said the overall objectives of the new direction for revenue mobilization is to increase domestic revenue from the current 11.1% of GDP to 20% of GDP within 3 years. Yes. And to build a fair, transparent and accountable tax system that promotes investment of growth. Yes. Now, with that, obviously, we're yet to get the 20% GDP. Correct. But would you want to say, okay, I mean, let's leave the SLPP. There's COVID. COVID, I mean, hits every country, and so the COVID crumbled every economy, even the bigger economies, I mean, in the world. So that is something they can actually pass for.
No, absolutely. Even before COVID, they were far from achieving this 20%. And let me explain this, because I see a lot of misrepresentation from what Lehman just put forward as far as the economy is concerned. Clearly, initially when they came to office, he mentioned the two rushed executive orders presented by the president. And if you remember, some of us did raise concern that it was too quick for those executive orders, and they needed not to have come out at that time. With the Treasury single account, clearly all, different MDAs putting resources together. So initially you saw an increase in revenue mobilization, and with the aggressiveness in pursuing tax collection and all of those things, yes, you saw increase in revenue mobilization. But what did that do? Shortly after that, it started shrinking, and the reason was there was a lot of suppression on the local businesses. They did not take into consideration the spending pattern of the citizens of this nation. And so a lot of burden was placed on local businesses. So you saw a lot of local businesses close. So instead of now increasing revenue mobilization, it reduced. And at the same time, prices of basic commodities started going up, and people were finding it more and more difficult to, afford their daily livings. And now you saw the bread and butter issue become even more and more difficult, to a point that, not only did we not have the butter, but even the bread was not available. And also we saw them remove subsidies, on some of these commodities that in the previous administration, used to keep the prices at a level that will comfort the burden on the people. And where did all of this leave us? I hear him saying they have moved away from, credits to grants. That is absolutely not true. In fact, we have more, debts, loans as far as international debts than we had before. 70% of our GDP currently is reliant on foreign debts. So how can you say you have moved away? And the idea that IMF gave you 200 million grants, that is not true. IMF has only one program with Sierra Leone, and that is the Extended Credit Facility Program. Yes, during COVID, they gave grants to every country to initially deal with the shocks of COVID. But the program that they have with Sierra Leone that is continuous is the 200 million Extended Credit Facility Program, for which 54 million has just been disbursed. So that is not a grant, it is a loan, and that has to be clearly put forward. So this idea of, you know, revenue mobilization, it started initially. And just to state this, but we know SLPP, they like to bluff. Initially, when they were reaching the target using the TSAs, they were posting revenue that they generated every week. Oh, this week we generated 20 billion. We were able to meet this. Are they doing that now? They stopped doing that even before COVID started because they were not meeting their target as far as revenue, domestic revenue mobilization was concerned. Now we move away from that. Let us come to the expenditure, because they were also, one of their priority was also to manage expenditure.
Right.
Come on. That is where they have failed us the most as far as the economy of this country is concerned. Let us even look at the wage bill. They were crying out loud when the APC was in power that we have a bloated wage bill. They met the wage bill at 167 billion a month. Now our wage bill stands at over 280 billion a month because they came in and created unnecessary jobs for their supporters, you know, giving, you know, consultancy, payments that are just exorbitant and do not even match the output of those for whom those offices were created. And besides, we have seen more and more of extra budgetary requests, you know, from the, you know, heavily on the Ministry of Finance. We see us paying for exorbitant international and local travels that have yielded no fruits absolutely for the people of this nation, other than just supporting certain government officials to go on vacations, honeymoon, and other trips for which we, the citizens of this country, are paying. And of course, we have all seen from the revelations in the Audit Service report, from the revelations in the Africanist Press, the amount of embezzlement, siphoning on public funds, and misappropriations happening under this administration. It is so enormous, you know, that they have failed. They have failed.
Have you read the
Okay.
You see, the point is APC, they have quality for telling lies to the public.
They have failed woefully.
You're not going to finish telling lies to the public.
These are very much plainly.
What is clear
These are
here?
very
What is
much
clear
plainly.
here?
I mean,
when we talk about
do not
audit
disrupt
reports,
me,
no,
Liman. I did not disrupt you. No, I did not.
I only hope you give me the bite to respond to the lies.
The only person that is lying here is you stating things.
Let's go to the issues, gentlemen. Let's go to the issues.
Let us stick with the issue.
Okay, now let me just address, let me address the issue of audit. Now let's come to the issue of audit, because that is what you guys are very good at, misinforming the public. Now let's come to audit here. When we talk of audit, as a government, we have got nothing. In fact, we have supported the Auditors General's office than any other government in this country. Now come to talk about audit. The issue of audit is done on an annual basis. Now, if you say you're going to undertake audit is done annually. When you talk about annually, you are looking at the year of audit. So if you have conducted an audit and then you go to analyze the report, and then you take the audit beyond a year and begin to look at 2015, 16, 17, coming back with the report without dissecting that report, you understand? At the end of the day, what report you present to the public, then it is discovered that the report you present to the public, there is a 2015 misappropriation and embezzlement you have included in this annual audit you have undertaken. Let's take, for instance, there is somebody in NACIT who is currently being investigated by the SEC for 6 billion, which they did not account for, which is also included in the audit report that they presented for 2019-2020, right? Which amounted to the 127 billion. Now, if they had dissected that, taking the 2015 extra, 2016 extra, 2017 extra, then the public would have been better informed and better and have a better understanding
Samuel,
as to how the audit is coming out. So if you see the APC has misappropriated funds, the APC has misused funds in this country, and then they come to the radio, they begin to misinform the public about that. That's not correct.
SLPP
what we have done as a government,
for the Commission of
we have
Inquiry
supported. I gave you time. If you can only give,
no, because you interrupted me. I was answering.
What we have done as a government, we have supported the Auditor General's office with their full budgetary allocation to be able to see how best they accomplish their work. That is why even monies collected that goes back to the Auditors General that's supposed to go to the consolidated fund.
So I did not finish my point.
The Ministry of Finance is saying that money should go back to the consolidated fund because there has not been a moment where we have starved the office of the Auditors General to dispense their duty.
I'll give you a time. I'll give you a time to come in. Allow me to just make that clarification. Just quickly, yes.
The audit reports does itemize by date, by time, the office,
by year.
I expect when we come to this forum to talk to the public,
it is
integrity
come on,
should be our watchword. Because you have a future to protect.
Okay, so let us move away from that. So what can you say? What excuse can you give us about the real-time audit carried out on NACOVAC? Is that also 2015, 2016?
What happened with NACOVAC? Yes, you've come with a issue now.
Gentlemen, let me hold both of you there, please.
The main evidence that these people use.
Gentlemen, I have to hold both of you there, and let me bring in gentlemen. I know your area of interest in all of this conversation has to do with the economy and the things promised in the new in the SLPP's manifesto. Revenue mobilization, management of public expenditure, how do we reduce debt management and things like that. Now, but we've seen where COVID has kicked in the saying, I mean, I know you were on a good track, but I'm sorry, we're not going to do that. And we're now seeing, like you mentioned, people told the APC that they're not going to sit down because angry be pledging. And you also said, the people then say now they're gone dry. So, with those economic policies, with those, I mean, the level of interest and confidence the World Bank, the IMF, they now have in Sierra Leone to a point that they are back supporting those projects. Where do we get these promises about raising the GDP from 11.1% to about 20% in 3 years? Today, max 3. There's COVID. Take that into consideration. So let the SLPP go. It's not just the government of Sierra Leone, the US, other countries, other bigger economies. They suffered. They crumbled. So the 20.
It is true that COVID created a dent in the economic trend that existed before COVID. But the challenges of the bread and butter issue had started long before the COVID. And the way the stimulus package was processed by this government during COVID, in my opinion, if you look at it from an economic point of view, was more or less geared towards sustaining the import sector of the economy. Which obviously results in a drain on our foreign reserve, because if you subsidize a process that increases the demand for imported goods and services, you're automatically increasing the demand for foreign currency, which obviously reduces our foreign reserve. But the main area I have concern with has to do with not only the revenue mobilization, which I commend this government for. They're really good at mobilizing revenue, but the question one needs to ask, how much of that revenue is spent on them, as opposed to being spent on taking care of the people who actually pays those taxes that are being levied.
So what would you say about the free quality education?
The free quality education, but before I get to
we'll come to the free quality education shortly.
Let me finish this trend. Now, if you take up a government in which the expenditure, especially the wage bill, was within the 30% of government expenditure, now it's gone up to 50% of government expenditure. So obviously, that mami na kinjimi that pays the GST tax, those of us that buy electricity, the 15% that is levied, those Okada drivers that go to take their license and they pay the GST tax, the taxes they pay to government. Those are all the monies that are consolidated. Instead of using that money to spend on the people to take care of them, 50 to 55% is used to take care of themselves within government at the expense of the economy. So the burden this tax revenue mobilization has on the economy has contributed to this anemic state that we have within the economy right now. Now, in respect to the flagship program of free education.
Let me hold you there. We'll come to that shortly. Let me have your bite, Femi, on the economy. Where are we with the promises and things that have been done and take COVID into consideration?
Okay, well, on the economy, I gave them a D.
Because you're not an economist.
We have, because I am not an economist.
Go ahead.
But guess what?
Go ahead.
I go to the market. I pay bills. I shop. I have a business myself. So you don't have to be an economist to know that things are not, all is not well. What I think what the SLPP are yearning for is perhaps what we can do for them is to have a day in the month that we call Clap for SLPP Day. Because they are constantly wanting to be patted on the back for mediocrity. So maybe we should assign a day that we simply clap for them and tell them well done, whether they do well or not, so that we just appease them. But from a person who goes to the market, Samuel, one mango now 5,000. We have a bloated cabinet. As they rightfully say, it's jobs for the boys. We are recently admiring the late president of Tanzania, who reduced his cabinet from 30 to 18. We are on a bloating, and then we have the inflated wage bill. It is not, you don't have to be an economist to know that there is no way your books are going to balance. And I sit and I listen to him saying with pride that we are now having grants, we are not having loans. And the question I ask to them is, when are we going to start to manufacture?
Well, even at that point,
when
that
are
is
we
not
going
true.
to start
That is even not true.
a road
We
to
have over $412 million loan that you guys have taken within 3 years. $412 million.
So when we are praising ourselves, why are we not going to start to emphasize on what Sierra Leone is now doing for itself? As business people, businesses are being squeezed from all angles. And business bad. Speak with anybody, depending on whichever level they are operating. I recently did an audit of my own business, which is a small, you can say a cottage industry. For the year of 2020, we were negative. Right now, we are on a trajectory to be again negative. But still, we have obligations that have to be met. So I am speaking from the person who goes to the market, who before would go with 100,000, is able to feed their family. A bag of coal is 40,000. So we can clap for you and praise you as much as it needs to satisfy you. But we have to look at what the average Sierra Leonean, that they were the people who gave you the job.
Right.
And we see from the very odd, and point of clarification, I read the audit report. I did not glance it, I read it. And there were areas there that were cause for alarm. In that the methods you use for procurements, it's like business for the boys again.
How?
When you look at the NACOVAC that CD is highlighting, monies began to be dispersed before a plan was even put in place.
We were responding to emergency.
Which one?
Yes, well, maybe they can say it was because of the medical emergency, but we see disbursement, it is there in the document.
Right.
Where monies were being dispersed, purchases were being made of bikes, vehicles, cars, computers, and everything that were not following the proper procurement procedures. There's nothing to defend in that. The document is there.
Okay.
All right.
But secondly, before he goes on to the education, when we talk of education, what is its impact on the students? We have students who have been crying for help that nobody listened to. And I still enjoy the SLPP when they say free quality education.
I'm still going to hold you there. It's the free quality education. I'm going to hold you there. I'm going to, disappointingly, not go. We have two more issues to look at, the free quality education and the youth. So I'm going to jump to the youth. Let's have a rest. Let's have a rest. I know. Let's relax. Sidi, I'm going to start off with you. The issue of the promises in the youth sector. Now, the new direction is saying overcoming youth unemployment will be at the center of our fight against poverty and our efforts to consolidate peace. In the new direction, the youth problem will not only receive our topmost priority, but will also be viewed as a human development and security challenge. It is our view that stimulating job creation requires a holistic approach. Our approach will be integrated and coherent. The priority will be 1, technical and vocational education and training; 2, national youth scheme; 3, economic empowerment; 4, sports; 5, music and performing arts; 6, public works; and 7, agriculture. Allied to these is that everything will be done to improve the competitiveness of the economy and create the enabling environment for the private sector to invest in the country and participate fully in its developments. Let's start off with technical and vocational educational institutes. You'd want to say it's a pass for the SLPP because technical institutions have been built across the country. Skills have been in Cambia, in other districts, in Kenema, in Pujeo. So you give it to them. They've launched about $22 million projects. So you have to give it to them.
As far as I know, we have been going around the country, changing the nomenclature of technical schools that existed under the previous administration, the Eastern Polytechnic in Kenema, for example, the Northern Polytechnic in Bombali, and now, of course, this big talk about the ECOWAS School for Technology that is yet to commence, a program that was, launched in the previous administration. But you see, when it comes to employment of our youth, you have to take into consideration both the skilled and unskilled.
Right.
We were very deliberate as a government in the previous administration when we started the National Youth Service Scheme. We knew that we needed to identify the strength of youth, both those who were skilled and those who were unskilled. And that is why we developed the many national youth programs that will feed into the development agenda of the previous administration. It was deliberate when we embarked on massive projects like construction, when we encouraged people to start large mining companies, because we knew that with those we'll be able to absorb young people into employment, whether they are skilled or unskilled. It was also deliberate when we decided to embark on the port extension and the construction of the Mamama projects, because we knew these would have been transformational projects, not only for the development of this country, but would have created hundreds of thousands of employment opportunity for young people, both skilled and unskilled. Unfortunately, though, when this administration came to power, they failed to study these youth development agenda. They decided to introduce agenda of theirs that really did not focus on building the skills of young people, but rather developed a mechanism of keeping young people under control and unprogressive for political reasons.
As you say that, so now, because we're being dangerously chased by time, I'm going to be coming quickly.
Car wash project.
Yes, so the issue of the National Youth Scheme, for example, the SLPP said they were going to review the current design of the National Youth Service and support its implementation. They've increased it to 500 students. Now, all those students are being sent to different institutions for internships, learning firsthand, getting the required experience. And the other day, the Minister of Youth and to show that they've acquired the skills needed for those, for those institutions and things like that.
And these are 500 students. What about the graduates? So I started. They introduced the car wash,
Right.
you know, for unskilled youths. I can bet. I mean that you came in and discontinued, you know, programs and projects that could create jobs, high-paying jobs for young people, and you replace them with car wash facilities, wherein even the minister seated here does not wash his cars in any of those car facilities. So how do you expect our young people to grow? And we move away from that. We come to
tell the public which program
education.
you
Do
had that
not
was
interrupt me. I am very, very much focused. I am
In line.
speaking to the people of this country, and they understand what I'm saying. When you come in, you can make your point.
Can I just quickly take you on the issue of the car wash? I spoke to few of the guys at this one at Bosholt. And according to them, because I was trying to just have a picture of what is happening with the car wash project, myself, I had this view. And according to them, every month, based on what they generate, they are able to take home 600,000 euros, like the minimum wage. That is empowerment, City.
All of them. One person,
600,000 euros.
I mean, but how many of those people can you create that for? And how much are you going to develop their skills for future opportunities?
Right.
That should be the focus there. Sustainability is very important when you talk of employment for people, even youths and non-youths. And we also have to focus. I mean, when we come to education, I'll say this. Let us look at even, you know, our higher education and how much emphasis are we placing on, for example, creating opportunity to ensure that our children seeking higher education are guided enough to go in for those curricula that will ensure them jobs after completing their university education. This government promised that they will provide free university for people, you know, offering science and technology courses, and even those offering medical medical courses. No, it did not say female, and I'll come to that. I'll quote for you from your own own manifesto. Your own manifesto.
And when you finish,
we have so many messages. Let me bring you to
when you finish this information.
Go and read the manifesto
on the youth sector.
No, but I guess you finish with him. You finish with
no, on the youth sector. This is a fresh conversation. I'll come to you.
No, Samuel. Let's do it right. I'm not pleased direction.
I understand.
Because one, he's raising too many misinformation, and I'm not stopping. You go to that one. By the time you come, I would have forgotten the many misinformation he has raised.
Issues, and I'll allow you to respond to all of them. Please,
that's not fair.
Please note them down. I'm sorry. They have to raise. You note and you respond to all of them, please.
Because you're giving him the second bite.
No. Let me ask. Okay, let me ask this question about. We're always going to be struggling with time. That is something I'm okay with now. So wherever it comes from, I'm okay with that. Let's look at the youth sector. That is where we are right now. Sidi just mentioned the youth car wash project, which is not, skill-based according to him, and for future. But you have other projects, the SLPP Manifesto put together, and the youth ministry the other day, and even a short documentary from State House was saying they've done extremely well. Now there are over 200 young people, youth, who are being trained to operate tractors. So now you don't need to bring Guineans or other nationals to come up with these machines. They're saying, oh, there's this World Bank skills development funded project that even the university students are into. They train in carpentry, masonry. These are all skills development projects that we should say the youth sector is actually thriving. Just made.
It's so pathetic. I don't even know how to respond to that. But let me tell you something. When we talk about youth and employment, when the children in Ghana, they are learning how to build aeroplanes that fly. Our government, is using car wash as their flagship. If nothing else tells you an example of a new direction that is a clear manifestation of a misdirection, that is one example. There are many to follow. our youth deserve 10 times more than just giving them car wash.
But car wash can be part of the package.
No,
where you come from, car wash centers are there.
Those are being run by private entities, not government.
Can government actually give jobs to every youth?
No.
The APC never did, and the APC was never going to be able, because the government should never be able to. So how then do we get in the private sector?
Government creates enabling environment for youth to be able to create jobs. So
what are some of those
themselves.
things now the government is doing that is not creating that environment for the private sector to invest in?
Stifling the private sector with so many taxation and not enabling local production of goods and services, as opposed to what they are doing now, enabling the importation of goods and services. There are basic things that will continue to import, most of which can be produced locally. Granting contracts only to foreigners, mostly to foreigners, or people within party circle who do not know a bee from a bull's foot in terms of the contract that they are inheriting from them. So they end up not delivering on those contracts. That is a system that they inherited from APC. We thought when they come, they're going to eradicate some of the wastage that APC set up in the past 11 years when they looted the economy of this country. We were expecting when these guys come, even though some of us were a little critical, I swear to my living God, I was far more hopeful for these guys that they're going to do something a little better.
Is that hope gone? Is that hope
gone? That hope is completely gone out of the window.
All right.
So the truth is this, they have done well when it comes to the free education, quality education.
We'll come to that shortly.
Comparatively to APC.
I'll come to the free quality shortly. We're running out of time. Yes. As you, the youth, I mean, there's 10,000 jobs being provided already in the youth in farming projects.
Samuel, let me come from the angle of the people base. Let us talk for those who are listening, who are feeling the pain. Now, one area where I am always very deeply sad about is the youth. And I hear people complain about them being violent, being easy to be manipulated, and you wonder why. Do they not see the light at the end of the tunnel that the APC is shining? No, they are not. All they are seeing is hopelessness. And what have we done to empower the youth? We have made available in Sierra Leone cheap alcohol. For 500, you can get drunk. So they have cheap alcohol, they have plasma, they have all kinds of things.
Drugs abuse.
Coach, and there are large numbers of them. I drive through the peninsula, I go to the peninsula, and I see kids as young as 12, 14, then they quiz plastic because they have no direction. You know what I mean? And in most other countries, the manufacturers of those cheap alcohols have to then invest. And we don't have the medical facilities to treat them for their liver failure. But we are pumping them full of these drugs and alcohol.
When you say we, you mean you, the politicians?
We are saying we are enabling the manufacturers to produce, sell, market, and make easily available to our youths who should be otherwise engaged in manufacturing. Who should be so busy after a long day's work that they have no concept of having to be drunk. But you see them hustling behind people, hustling, begging. What are their main sources of income? Even our graduates. Then they drive keke, then they ride Okada. They see no future in whatever it is they have just spent serious amounts of monies to accomplish at the colleges. And even those who are at the colleges, Samuel, they are crying out. And for me, there are basic issues that this government, these are issues that are fixable.
Quickly, what are they?
Students in the colleges are complaining of overcrowding. Fobe College, they finished their halls of residence since when Jesus was a choir boy. Nobody has checked into those hostels up until now. They are having an issue of missing grades. Cumbria, they end up pay a whole year school fee because of missing grades. If the children don't get to classes early, they get to stand throughout. Some courses have no syllabus. They have no curriculum. The Athens of West Africa. Right.
Let me bring in Lima now to address the issues you've raised, the youth sector. So you're just thinking that creating those jobs that you would not want even your own brother to do. You think car wash, what's that for a young person like me to go and do? That's what CD is saying. And I mean, those are not the things we're looking forward to. We look forward to better things, better environments, and the private sector creating more jobs for young people. All right.
Before I come to address the misinformation of CD, let me just clarify this point that since this government has come to power, we have not increased any taxes, and we've even tried as best as possible to even reduce the tax, in spite of the fact that we inherited a very rotten economy, and with the COVID, we have been able to manage the economy. Now, coming to the issue of youth, President Bio has the most ambitious program for the future of young people and youth in particular in this country, and that is why he has a very good policy program in his manifesto that will change the livelihood of our young people in this country. Of our young people in this country. Right. Now, let me come to address the issue one after the other. Now, CD was talking that the program they established, even though I asked him to name a few of the programs, he didn't. But what I know clearly that the previous APC administration chopped huge amount of money that was meant for youth in fishing and youth in farming. The commission your former ministers, perhaps
go ahead.
If you want me also to bring yours, I will also include yours. But I don't want to get into that. So yes, the commissions of inquiry actually clearly showed that in fact journalists even visited the site where they said they had youth farm or youth in fishing. It was a sham project. They chopped the money, and they had to negotiate with the ACC to do an out-of-court settlement. You understand? We have come because companies that were operating under the APC administration, we are going to places like Ghana and other neighboring countries who have at least the middle level manpower with some minimum level of education and training in technical skills. They used to go to those countries and brought in people to come and serve in their companies, as opposed to our own youth here. Our own youth, we are doing, in fact, menial jobs, I could say, that they could not even afford perhaps the minimum wage bill for. Now we've looked at that in different style. Now we've decided to do the TVET program, which the Youth Commission is doing, to ensure that we mobilize some of our youth who have not got some level of academic formal education, to get them trained those skills, like how to do road constructions, how to do machining, how to do mechanical work. My own younger brother hasn't got the ability to get himself a formal education. I looked at him because I don't want him to be a waste to himself and society. I got him to the mechanical field. Yeah, he is a motor mechanic. You understand? So basically, not necessarily because I was fortunate to get formal education, and for which perhaps my head calls for. And because his head doesn't call for that, I cannot get him learn something to be useful to himself. So to have youth who might not have got formal education, to establish the car wash program for them, it is still to keep them busy and make them useful to themselves. What I would expect from us here, if only we have the integrity, the level of integrity to our people, and also we mean serious for the progress of this country. When we have platform of this nature, instead of we waste the airtime, let us also encourage our young people to see the alternative means of livelihood, especially for, like Madam mentioned, for some graduates who are bike riders, some are keke riders. Right. Can we also encourage them to see agriculture as another means of alternative means of livelihood, so that we would also inspire them, we encourage them to be useful to themselves. What President Bio has done, or what this SLPP administration has done under his leadership, it is to create places like the car wash, so that at least there could be some level of improvement into the work they do in washing cars, so that they make some proceeds, and at the end of the day improve their skills in some other training. And quite apart from that also, the youth in farming, youth in fishing, this is also engagement of young people that will generate funds for them. The Ministry of Finance also has disbursed money to be able to support some of these young people so that at least whatever little skills they are learning, they'll be able to invest on themselves by providing funds for the small, for SMEs, in which some of these youths are engaged in, including the youth in fishing and youth in farming. These are some of the progress President Bio has made in order to be able to help our young people in this country. Come away from that also. Let's take a look at football or sports. Sport is one area also that died out under the APC administration. In fact, football never played till the APC left power. We've come and we've been able to see how best we reinitiate football or sports generally, to the extent that we even have our national premier, in which our young boys who engage in playing football are useful to themselves. Some who are even in clubs are also getting salaries from those clubs. And this is how we have been able to empower our young people to be useful to themselves. So you see, when we put those things on our manifesto, we just don't put them there as empty promises.
Okay.
Most of the things we mention here for the empowerment of our young people, who have been able to ensure that we roll them out, not to come and talk here in situations where people have chopped money that are meant for youth in farming, youth in fishing, and then they come here again, they want to lie to the very youth. For my brother Jesmed, I would really understand with him. He's coming from areas perhaps where he clearly has the understanding of where people have some degree of formal education in which people can venture into aeroplane making and all. That is why President Bio cares so much that we care about the next generation. That is why he has decided to launch the free quality education program. And
so
that one,
let's
I will tell you,
let's go into
we will not see the results now.
Let's go into that.
But in the next 10, 15 years, you begin to realize the results, wherein your intention of seeing where we can have our young people engage in aeroplane making,
quickly, because
some
of
other
time,
advanced mechanical work.
Let's run.
Will become visible when, after 10, 15 years, this free quality education would have permeated the minds of our young people.
Already in that. I mean, what's your assessment, the government flagship program?
No, you know,
Yes, subscribe. You always dey watch we program them, but you not subscribe yet to the channel. All wetin you get for do, press this red subscribe button, and then you come over here and press this bell. To the bell option, press this one with all. E don done. E no get for cost you anything. When you do this, na sign for show say you dey support we for make we do more. Thank you for we don help we for share this program. Yeah, God bless you.
I want to just touch on what I'm listening to a government minister, and I'm listening to his aspirations for our youth, and I am saddened.
How?
The aspiration, the bar they have set for our youth is so low that it seems like maybe it's a village headman bringing out a proposal for the youth of his village, not for the youth of a country that is so blessed in natural resources, is so potentially wealthy, that we are looking at mediocrity. The bar they are setting for our youth is so low that it's baffling to hear that this is the aspiration when we sit in our homes and we watch CNN, we watch other African countries they are taking their youths to different heights, whether they are educated or skilled. We see them taking our youth, and our minister is talking about our football. That is a side issue to growing the economy. Wow. It is. It is a side issue. When you come on air and you are telling us about how the youths have now started a plant where they are now making X, Y, and Z, you can sit here and boast. But if you are talking about you have started a car wash for them, you are praising yourself over football. Where, I mean, they say aim for the stars and you land on the clouds. But our government is aiming right there on the ground, and they propose
is that a good start? I mean,
it's a
the fact
start.
that We have youth in car wash, we have youth in fisheries, we have those in the sporting world, we have those in entrepreneurship, and we have the youth service. Is that a good start?
I think that the government should really and truly take a look at how you want to elevate our youth.
Right.
First of all, if you are going to elevate our youth, then your foundation is their education.
Which we have given.
And the government keeps telling us, if you give lunch and you give free books, few books, that doesn't mean quality.
What is quality?
Quality means you now look at your teacher training, you look at your teacher incentives, you look at your school. I did not speak over you, and you will not speak over me.
Let her land, Lima, please.
You look at the curriculum. There are students in college who can tell you, say, where is your curriculum? We'll not get. You look at the curriculum, you look at the teacher training, the quality of the teacher training, those who are going into the training schools, you look at the teacher incentives, you look at the infrastructure that the children have to learn in. You look at energy. There was one minister from their government who went and gave DSTV. I said yes, for the children to watch Nigerian movies. Give them connectivity so they have internet access. Give them toilets, give them labs, science labs, art labs, music labs, catering labs. Instead, you are trying to shove it down our throats that you are giving us free quality. No school fees does not constitute a free quality education. And Samuel, I want to touch on his praising his government again for removing the Public Order Act. What this SLPP government has now cooked, this is cooking, is a cybercrime bill that is full of hazards and pitfalls. Now, there's an organization called SLINT who went through the cybercrime bill. I was so amazed to read their documents. I never even realized that Sierra Leone has such unbelievable manpower. Okay. They went through the cybercrime bill and highlighted section by section what are the pitfalls of the use of the languages, what are the issues that are important, what amendments should be made before a cybercrime bill is rolled out. They rolled it all the way to Parliament.
We'll have a conversation for that cybercrime bill. It's very important, and we're actually running out of time. Let me bring you the issue of education. This is the flagship, human capital development, and the SLPP regime rolled out free quality education, aiming or targeting over 2 million kids already benefiting, according to the data from the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education. And this is something we should be celebrating about. Am I correct?
You're absolutely right, my friend. When we talk about the free quality education, let's give the devil its due. When you look at the free quality education in comparison to what they inherited, you will commend whatever they are doing now. So in comparison to what they inherited, they have done well.
Right.
But when you examine the free quality education in comparison to the resources thrown at it, allegedly, my good gracious, you will wonder which direction we are going as a nation. Let's look at the issue about the poor planning itself. First of all, I want the public to know that this issue about free quality education was never part of the Mother Bio Manifesto prior to the 2018 election until they had it from Dr. Kande Koleyumkela and myself. And you interviewed me, and we were the only two people that were pushing. And we have a clearly defined strategic plan that is an average of $120 million to be spent every year, which includes not only providing the logistics, building new schools, geographically balanced, creating a training mechanism for teachers, you understand? Linking up with education institutions, wherein we can be providing not only the technical skills to our teachers. There are teachers that I genuinely really want to teach, but they don't have the training. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the resources. And they are not being incentivized. There are teachers, as I speak right now, that are not being paid. They are poorly paid. They are struggling to go to classrooms because the schools are away from their locations. Students are not having the necessary resources. So this idea of free quality education is a fallacy.
Right.
In the real sense of the word. But in comparison to what they inherited from APC, my good gracious, thank God they came in. Because if that APC system had continued, in 5 years more, we will have completely given up on education in Sierra Leone. At least they are giving it a life support. But had that been NGC, in terms of the plan that we had, that would have been a different
your campaign time would come.
It's not campaigning. It's not
your
campaigning.
campaign time would come.
It's like you're telling a pastor to go preach about the sins of the world, and you don't give them guidelines as to how to go seek salvation.
Right. Stay with us.
I have to tell them how they can free themselves from the mediocre leadership that exists now. NGC is the only solution.
Sidi, the free quality education.
I will address that.
They were able to recruit 5,000 teachers, retain about 7,000. 2 more thousand will be recruited, just so we are able to get the quality in the free quality education package. What would the APC say about the free quality education?
First of all, before I even come, let me just address a few things Jesmet said.
Quickly.
I mean, if you understand the education sector, what entailed before and now, just look at the passing grades of our kids at Becker and at public exams level. You will understand that the quality back then is far better than what we see now under this administration, because the passing grades were far higher than now. And let me say this, when we came in 2007, yes, the budget allocation to education was 3.7% of GDP. We increased that to 15% by 2017. Thankfully, they raised it up from 15% to wherever it is now. So we give them kudos for that. And we were very, very much concerned about the quality aspect of education. And that is why we developed teaching syllabus. That is why we developed teaching syllabus for basic education. We strengthened school inspection through recruitment of school support officers, appointed chairpersons, commissioners, and staff of the Teaching Service Commission, developed first ever inclusive education policy, the first ever early childhood education policy, an associated minimum standards document, and 2 education sector plans. All of these we did to improve the quality of education. And we also look at the curriculum or syllabus for the WAS, the secondary school education. And we realize through reports submitted to us by the commission that the 6334 was not adequate enough to complete. That is why it was changed to 6344. And we saw improvement in public exam scores when that was done. Yes, this government came to power, they introduced free quality education. They provide their free quality education so far as we are concerned is to provide tuition for students. That is a continuation from where they met. We were providing subsidy for up to 70% across the board, from primary school all the way to university. Under the APC, yes, Jesmet. I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did not know that. I am sure you did not. I am sure you.
I was waiting for you.
I am sure you did not know that. I am sure you did not know that.
Rigging of exams.
I am sure you did not know that. But let me continue. But let me continue. Under this administration, what we are seeing under the free quality education falls far short of what we were promised. You understand? So far, like I stated, we can commend them because, yes, I mean, they provide tuition, they're going around trying to, do some inspections here and there, but let us look at even the expenditure itself on parents. I mean, you cannot take tuition, which is probably one of the most minimal cost to cover when it comes to education, and then you say you're providing free education. What about uniforms? What about, bags? What about shoes? They are far more expensive now than they were 3 years ago. So, I mean, the burden, yes, it has been cushioned a little bit by taking care of the fees, but it still has not taken away the bulk of the burden from the parents.
Okay.
That is one aspect of it. And let me say this.
Quickly,
I just want to go through their manifesto. They are saying that the whole idea was to increase access to quality education. And these were some of the things that they said they were going to do that. Introduce free quality education from preschool to senior secondary school. Introduce free university for students pursuing science and technology courses and medical discipline. So as far as we are concerned, no, it is there. There is no female. I'm reading from your manifesto. You know, so go to page 38 of your manifesto. That is where it is. I'm not, you know, I know how to read.
Go ahead, time.
I mean, so as far as we are concerned, so even medical school people, by right, we are supposed to be getting free education by their own manifesto promise, which they totally failed on. And you go further, they say, promote development child-friendly schools that will be provided with recreational facilities, toilet facilities, and safe places in each district. That has definitely not been done in these 3 years. Provide sponsorship to students to access higher education through effective management of grants in aid. I mean, that is very problematic. Yes, they have introduced student loan scheme, which we believe it's very, very much, I mean, inappropriate for our situation as a country. And we go further, they say, build support.
I'll give you a minute.
One primary school in every administrative section in every district. One primary school in every administrative section in every district. One secondary school equipped with science laboratory in every electoral constituency in this country. That you're talking about 149 or more.
That's a
you know, secondary school equipped with science laboratory in this country, constructed under their free policy. I mean, there's more.
I know,
but
far short. Us to go
exactly.
Through them.
So
let's bring
whereas
in
we give them kudos, I mean, the expectations and even the pronouncements are far, far more than the actual offers that our people are enjoying or benefiting from.
Report card on the free quality education by the SLPP.
Of course, the SLPP has done extremely well in free quality education, but I will take a cue from where CD stops, that they did all of this good work for free quality education, but they concluded in situations where we have two NPSC candidates taking exams on one question paper. So you would imagine how compromised that exam was and how they institutionalize examination malpractices under their reign. So that is the level of rottenness of our education in which we inherited, which became a public concern for even the running mate of the NGC, who happens to be Mr. Andrew Kiley, was one person, of course, who ran consistent article on that, on the rottenness of our education system under that administration. Now, taking it from there, I'm telling us that the passing grade for as under their administration is far higher than what we are experiencing now. What we are experiencing now is not our product, because let us say for the past 5-10 years, these people have been going under this rotten system, to which is now reflecting on the outcome of what of the rottenness they've really passed through. That is what we are experiencing now. So if they have been experiencing higher passes, it is because of the Sababu Education program, which Dr. Alpha Uri, under the then SLPP, under Pakaba, ran for this country, which they gave quality to students to be able to focus and also pay fees, examination fees, and give them better education. That is why they experienced passes. That was not their own product or their own making. So if we are seeing students coming with poor results now, poor grades, it's because of the rottenness in which they actually passed through. Coming to this, what we are saying here now. Now, we're talking about free quality education here. We came in a situation where, of course, it was pathetic. Say, for instance, you have parents who have at least 3, 4, or 5 kids. They prioritize as to which of the kids goes to school first, and the others find another thing to do because they cannot afford that fees. Now, with the inception of the free quality education, even if you have 10 kids, all of them will go to school. And the government did not only stop at paying fees or tuition fees for those kids, the government went further to even provide school buses, right, to take away the burden of paying transportation, youth transportation for those kids, and also provide school feeding program for those kids. Now, I'm coming. School feeding programs for those kids so that at least they will stay in school and pay attention to learning, and also to be able to also make the education program have quality. The government also went further to even provide tuition fees for teachers who have taken 10 years in the teaching field for their kids to go to university free. And apart from that also, this government has also gone further to ensure that we have the school inspectorate program reinstituted, and motorbikes also have been provided so that at least the inspectors will reach in places that are far away from the city towns and also town headquarters, so that those inspectors will reach there and be able to examine the work the teachers are doing, so that we'll be able to impact quality knowledge to our kids. So by the time they finish the basic level, at least they'll be able to enter into an intermediate training that will be able to also better this economy. So away from
you
that,
have a minute.
Say again?
You have a minute.
Yes. So away from that, this government has actually made consistent efforts to ensure that even the free healthcare program also is extended for those kids at that level. So this is what government has done so far to be able to not only provide education for our kids, but even providing books, textbooks, providing those books for them. So we are not saying, you know, when you want to empower your kids, first of all, if you can't afford that money, we have taken away from them fees. We've taken away from them food. You understand? And these are the basic necessities you need to be able to empower your kids. So this is how this government has been able to inject the free quality education program, in which we now have 2 million kids going to school, and for which they even appreciate the president as he goes round the country, and they continue to appreciate him for his program.
Thank you, gentlemen and lady. Thank you. Quickly, let's bring in our viewers. The number is +232 77622 766 +232 77622 766. Quickly on Facebook, Ibrahim Jas is saying, with the analysis I'm hearing from the panelists, SLPP should be shown the exit door come 2023. Sia Kelly is saying, since Talk and Do took over some same ferry, same light system, same toll road, same with the way to Talk and Do today, 3 years. And as Kamara is saying, the strongest is never strong enough unless he put, I don't know what you're quoting, just go straight to the issue, please. Sam Williams is saying, SLPP, you can't have your cake and eat it at the same time. I have never seen a government in power from day one. They will not be happy. Mohammed Kanu is saying, our leaders are not well matured enough to carry out such responsibilities. They always tend to be very confused and don't know what to do. Elijah is saying, Tuni, stop this talk because you guys are not in power. You don't want people in the country. You pay people to destroy national developmental issues. And Umar Okonto is saying the president is to be blamed for not acting on the recommendations of the commissions of inquiry. That's why APC are parading themselves with garbage on national television. Umar Okonto is saying, until our people stop recycling those two corrupt parties. If not, there will be no progress in Mama Salon, Jibril. Masako Vishini is saying, not to SLPP bring angry or hardship na salon. SLPP don't do all thing government for do way for make people suffering minimize. But wicked APC Sierra Leoneans, they hype high prices. Situation at the country na export salon, they export gari, potato, cassava leaves, cream, cassava, okra, country rice, salon man. Why all thing we want government for do? President Bio is on the right track. He needs more time. Umar Okonto is saying, Ibrahim Jakema is saying, Madam Cole is the new Vuvuzela in Sierra Leone's politics. She is using gender. Okay, I wish you were going to the issue. Bobby Brown is saying, this is why Sierra Leone would never progress, because even us, the journalists, are asking crazy questions. Interesting. Lamin Denke, that is too harsh for me to go through. I'm sorry. Tijan Abdul Karim is saying, Mr. APC, your party needs to tell Sierra Leoneans the truth. You guys are more dangerous than ever. APC is not supporting the agenda of this country. Sam Williams, I'm going to take 5 more messages because of time, and I think we're having some problems again with the call lines. If you ask me, SLPP failed miserably. This is the second time SLPP has failed Salon, 1976 and 2018. 3 years of misdirection. Had it not been for the visible transformation works by the past administration, Sierra Leone should have been hell, because the situation in the country is unbearable. The country is getting harder every day. Up till now, 3 year Pikino still waka and talk it is still in a popo back. Mystic at Dwazak is saying, I stand with HE not to work with terrorists like APC. Okay. I'm afraid we have to jump. So many messages. I'm struggling to actually skip through the political ones, the more political ones, so to speak. SLPP Paupa president, some bridge to build took 8 to 10 years. So when we go start, Mr. President, talk and do. Madam Cole is now calling for equal appointments, but did she condemn her sister for Biwa Bisa? Interesting. Ronald Georgestone, so just 2 more message. There are men and women who will be 60 years on April 27th. Here, hundreds of thousands of them have never worked or contributed to the economy. Imagine that at the age of 60, when you should be thinking of retiring, you are stuck in the rut. How sad this situation for our people. This is interesting. Both previous and present governments have failed us and will fail us if we have if we, the people, don't change our partisan mindset. What can we be proud of as Sierra Leoneans? Colonialism did well than our elected leaders. Hundreds of messages. I'm afraid time will not permit us to go through all of them, and we will have to hold the messages there. And also, I have to apologize for not taking your call. So, gentlemen and lady, we have a minute each to just what's our parting shots. It's been quite intense. I'm going to give you the last shots. Just made.
I'll take the last shot.
Well, fellow Sierra Leoneans, Mina Gismet, Fudi Mami Suma, they represent the NGC party. When I don't see how the economy day. APC take over this country in 2007, where a bag of rice has been 65,000 leones. They increased to 180,000 to almost 200,000 leones a bag. This government, Mother Bill government, take over from 200 and 230,000 leones a bag. Then don't increase to almost 360,000 leones a bag. So waiting that they tell una. They tell una say, as long as una continue for vote the same way, una life no go ever change. The only time when una life go change, na when una change una vote. The only political party today.
I'll send invoice to you for campaign, so I'm going to hold you there.
No, it's not a campaign. It's not a campaign. No, you are telling. No. I'm telling you. No. It is not a campaign. It is not a campaign.
I have to hold you there.
No, the point is.
I have to hold you there.
You can't expect a pastor to go preach about sins and not giving them the road to salvation.
What's the way forward?
I want to give them the road to salvation.
I'll hold you there. I'll hold you there. When that time comes, I'll bring you here to give them that, to show
the road to salvation.
When that time comes, I'll
you
bring you here.
You cannot preach about sins. You don't give.
It's been 3 years.
Yeah.
We've been here. We've all
but let me
highlighted.
I will deviate from that, but it's really unfair for me not to finish my closing remarks. Now, the 2 areas that I would like our gentleman to respond to is one, what is the position of this government on the Africanist press allegations about the billions and billions of dollars that are allegedly being siphoned by this government?
If he can answer that in a minute, then that's fine, but we'll keep that for another day.
Yes, but again,
because of time.
Well, then we need to have.
He will not conclude and I'll respond.
Okay.
The Africanist press is of no moment because there is nothing he has touched that the audit report has not raised. And all the audit report has raised, we have responded to them. You know, the issue of corruption is not about the issue of raising them. It's about how government respond to them. Okay. We have shown, we have demonstrated serious leadership in this country, that we have got no sacred cow.
We're not going to that debate. Time is never on our side.
I know.
However, that is not, it's just a response, not my 1 minute.
I know. That was a smart one.
Yes.
It has been 3 years, and we've clearly highlighted how polarized our politics is, and it is now trending in a direction that is dividing us even further. We hope that for the next 2 years, our government will do everything possible to unite this nation, especially now that we'll be heading into the electionary period for both the local councils and the general elections in 2002 and 2003. So we hope the government will bring us together, unite this nation, and speak to the aspirations of the people of this country. Our economy is in shambles. We hope that more and more, sound economic policies will be immediately put in place to address the hardship the people of this country are facing.
Thank you.
Kudos and happy Easter.
Lima?
No,
No, I'm protecting my lady. You go.
Of course, the SLPP campaigned on the promises that we are coming to give a better livelihood to our people in this country.
Right.
And most of the issues we campaigned on, we've been able to deliver on them in 3 years. We've almost accomplished the issues we raised. Our flagship project, the free quality education, has been rolled out and is working effectively well. And we've done consistent youth empowerment. President Bio has factored himself as a very good national leader who has also called for a national dialogue. In spite of the fact that we inherited a very battered economy, we have been able to pump life into our economic management, and to such an extent that we've been able also to drive this country towards a better cohesion, to a better cohesive society by ensuring that the distribution of national resources is even, and we take development program to every part of this country, in spite of the fact that we do not, even in spite of the fact that people do not even vote for us in those areas, because we believe that we are in government to serve the people of Sierra Leone and to serve Sierra Leone. And that is the leadership aspiration President Bio believes in, and that is what he's delivering, to serve the people of this country.
Thank you.
We've come here, and when we come here, we come to speak to the people without even saying. The results speak for themselves, and the people understand, as against the backdrop of misinforming the people.
Thank you.
And so President
Thank you.
Bio will continue to do the good work that he has started, and the SLPP will continue to do the good work, because it is the only party that do good for this country. The only party when in power.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
we're in
Femi,
election.
go ahead.
I want to really speak to, there's still 2 years. I want to speak to the SLPP government and to the president. The next 2 years are not it's not time for excuses any longer. You cannot tell us it is raining when it is not raining. So my advice would be for these 2 years to be the year of serious delivery.
Okay.
There are policies that the SLPP is cooking up that will tip the scale on the elections come 2023. One is the midterm census, one is the cybercrime bill, and the other is decentralization. Decentralization, we need to discuss it further. It is not ready for prime time. Right. We have been pleading. You will not speak over me, Mr. Lehman. I did not speak over you.
Go ahead.
Come on.
Go ahead.
The issue of decentralization, Mr. President, we need to talk about. You cannot remove politics where it belongs and place it in IPAM Lecturers Association. Politics belongs in local government council. Let us leave politics where it belongs and take it out of areas where it doesn't.
Development belongs to local government councils.
The cybercrime bill needs further attention. It needs to be removed from Parliament.
That is good for national security.
It needs to be revised.
Very good for national security.
Attention needs to be paid to it. It is harmful for Sierra Leone, and it is a bad law in the making.
It is a very good law for national security.
There is still time to correct some of these missteps. The Constitution is the leading document.
Certainly.
And violating the Constitution is contempt for every single Sierra Leone.
And this government has never violated any aspect of our
Thank you very much,
Constitution.
Femi Claudius Cole. Thank you very much, Jasmed Suma, Sidi Yaya Tunis, Lahai Lawrence Lima. It's been a pleasure talking to all of you this evening. Many thanks to our audience. Up next is AYV Primetime News. The show has been AYV on Sunday. My name is Samuel Weisbango. A repeat of the show comes up on Thursday at 10 p.m. Take care of yourself and stay blessed.